Okay, so when you think of Cleopatra, what's the first image that pops into your head? A siren, a seductress, right? The woman who brought down great men? Well, that image is actually one of the most successful and totally misleading marketing campaigns in all of history. Yeah, our source material for this really hits the nail on the head. The story we've all been told, the one from the movies, it's not the real story at all. It was propaganda, plain and simple, cooked up to destroy a powerful woman who was a massive threat to the Roman world order.
So, to find the real Cleopatra, we have to do some digging. We've got to strip away all those layers of myth and actually look at the world she was born into, the incredible challenges she faced, and the absolutely brilliant, sometimes ruthless moves she made just to survive.
Right, so first things first, let's just forget all the romance and the silk pillows for a second. Cleopatra was born into a political nightmare. She inherited a dynasty that was literally collapsing from the inside out. You gotta understand, her family, the Ptolemies, had been ruling Egypt for nearly 300 years. That's a long time. But by the time she was born, that long reign was in an absolute free fall. The glory days were long, long gone. So just picture this. This is the hand she was dealt. A kingdom on the brink of collapse, a rising superpower, Rome basically swallowing up every country around it, and a family where brothers and sisters murdering each other for power was just business as usual. This wasn't a kingdom, it was a crisis waiting to happen. And, true to form, she gets betrayed almost immediately. At just 18, she gets thrown out of her own kingdom by her younger brother. For most people, that would have been the end of the story, but not for her. No way. She didn't just accept it. She got an army and prepared to march right back in. Okay, so this brings us to the part of her story everyone thinks they know, her relationships with these super powerful Roman men. History has painted this as all about lust and romance, but the reality, it was way more strategic than that. Let's talk about that famous story of her being smuggled to Julius Caesar in a rug. That wasn't some desperate romantic gesture, come on. It was a calculated power play, a masterclass in political theater. She was making a statement. I'm here, I am not afraid, and you are going to pay attention to me. And you know what? It worked. Let's really break it down. Her relationships, first with Caesar and then with Mark Antony, they were all based on mutual need. It was a transaction. They needed Egypt's incredible wealth and the legitimacy that her ancient royal bloodline gave them. And what did she need? She needed Rome's military muscle to keep her throne safe. And that's really the key takeaway here. This wasn't about love, it was war, fought through intimacy. She used relationships and alliances as weapons in a high-stakes political battle for the survival of her kingdom. But, if we only focus on her relationships, we are missing the bigger picture. Because while all this Roman drama was unfolding, she was also, actually ruling her country and doing a really good job of it. 14 years. Think about that number for a second. For 14 years, in the middle of all this chaos, Cleopatra didn't just survive, she governed. That's an incredibly long time in a world where rulers are being knocked off left and right. And get this, she was great at it. She stabilized the economy, funded big projects for her people, and, in a really radical move for the time, she put her own face on coins. To the Egyptian people, she wasn't some foreign temptress, she was their pharaoh, the living version of the goddess Isis. So that begs the question, right? If she was this popular, competent ruler, why do we remember her as this toxic femme fatale? Well, the answer lies with her final enemy, a guy named Octavian, who launched one of the most effective smear campaigns in history against her. See, Octavian saw the power couple of Antony and Cleopatra as a direct threat to his own ambitions to rule Rome. But he couldn't just attack Antony as another Roman rival. That would look bad. So he had to make the fight about something else entirely. He had to make it about her. And his strategy was just brilliant in a terrifying kind of way. He painted her as this foreign, exotic witch who had used her magic to enchant a good Roman man. By doing this, he turned a Roman civil war into a holy crusade to save Rome's very soul. He didn't declare war on Mark Antony, he declared war on Cleopatra. It was pure propaganda, and boy did it stick. In the end, Octavian's military might was just too much. They lost. But even in defeat, Cleopatra refused to be a pawn in his victory celebration. You see, the ultimate prize for a victorious Roman general was to parade their captured enemies through the streets of Rome in something called a triumph. It was the ultimate public humiliation. Cleopatra knew this was waiting for her, and she was having none of it. By choosing how and when she died, she robbed Octavian of his final victory. It was her last act of defiance.
And this quote really sums it all up, doesn't it? The Romans weren't just afraid of her armies. They were afraid of her intelligence, her political skill, her ambition. She challenged their entire world, and for that, they had to destroy her reputation.
So after she was gone, Octavian's propaganda became the official story. And for the next 2,000 years, everyone just built on it. Roman poets, Christian writers, Shakespeare, and of course, Hollywood. Each one added another layer to the myth until the real woman was almost completely buried.
But the real story is still there. It's buried deep under centuries of myth, but it's there, if we just choose to look for it.
Because her real story isn't about the dramatic way she died.
And it's not even about the famous lovers who have defined her in our history books for centuries.
No, the real story, the one that's worth remembering, is about the brilliant, defiant, and powerful woman who ruled a kingdom on the edge of a knife and who made the most powerful empire in the world absolutely tremble. That was the real Cleopatra.